We've been fighting for freezing families. We've been fighting for families who are living with mold, lead, all sorts of problems in their apartments. They want to know, can they trust the federal government to come in and fix things?
They need to understand that, this is a very big priority for me and for many of the people who work here. That's the reason that we're here. And more importantly, they need to know that there's a fresh commitment by the mayor and his team and by the NYCHA leadership, some of which will be changing. And there's going to be a real spotlight placed on making sure that the metrics are met, that the goals are achieved, and we will have mechanisms in place to enforce that. Because I fully understand that over the years people have had different promises and then they've seen nothing happen.
Exactly.
And I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. I don't want to hear people just talking about stuff. Results are very important.
Yeah, and for the people too. Money. Let's talk money. I know I asked you yesterday, are you going to show NYCHA the money? The feds have cut, what is it, $3 billion in funding since 2001. Are you going to commit to more money for NYCHA?
I'm going to commit to as much money as I have to give them, but
Okay.
do recognize that currently we send NYCHA $25 to $30 million a week. It's not like they're being neglected, but obviously it's not just a matter of money all the time. It's also a matter of efficiency and how things are done.
Yeah, and people want a seat at the table, Secretary. So how are you going to make that happen?
Well, we're going to obviously encourage resident councils on a regular basis, hearing from the people who are actually being affected. And that's one of the reasons that I'm very interested in local control, as opposed to a bunch of bureaucrats sitting in Washington, D.C. telling people what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I think, working together with defined goals will make a huge difference, but we need to hear from the residents. And as I've traveled around the country and I've looked at places that are successful versus places that are not, one of the things I've noticed is that most of the successful endeavors involve resident councils.
President Trump, your boss, does he know about the humanitarian crisis that is inside Nigeria now? Is he aware of it? And will he be visiting?
I have certainly discussed this with him. He has been foursquare behind the things that we're doing to try to actually improve the lives of the people. And soon, I think you will hear him actually talking about that.
So, wow. And so he will be here? He will be coming to New York City, his home, because people are hurting here.
I'm not going to make any promises on behalf of anybody else, but
all right.
I would hope so.
The government shutdown. Talk to me about the government shutdown. If this happens, will that impact public housing? How will that impact families who live inside NYCHA?
Well, obviously, we're doing everything we can to prepare for that eventuality. Obviously, we're all hoping that that does not occur. But making sure that we have the various contracts consummated so that we can extend aid as far into the future as possible.
Now, Federal Monitor, you have a short list for the Federal Monitor. Everyone wants to know who that Federal Monitor is, since there's a short list. Will it be a tenant?
I always say, why guess when soon you'll know? We'll be announcing that within the next couple of weeks.
And you'll be breaking it right here on Pix 11, I hope.
Something like that.
Oh, that'd be great. Please, please. And the privatization, people are so afraid of that word, privatization, and it's a public-private partnership is the way Mayor Bill de Blasio puts it, that they're going to be pushed out of their homes. Can you say to the families right now they won't be pushed out of their homes?
Of course they're not going to be pushed out of their homes. That's a high priority for us, and particularly with the RAD program, the Rental Assistance Demonstration, that converts, public housing and brings in some private sector interest, and more importantly, a lot of private sector money. But that program is predicated on the fact that those units remain affordable and that the tenants who are there are looked after first of all.
Well, you can understand how families don't trust. At this point, the city has let them down so many times.
Well, I think it might be good for them to go and look around the country at some of the RAD programs that have occurred, and I think that would allay a lot of those anxieties.
I would love to see it myself. We would love to go out there and see it ourselves. Now, NYCHA 2.0, I'm doing the math right now, total $24 billion, but there's a need of about 38. So that's, where does the rest of the money, the $14 billion, come from?
Well, first of all, there are efficiencies that will help quite a bit, and also selling of air rights. And you know, there are things that the city can do. The city's going to be bringing in $2.2 billion over the 10-year period. The state, $550 million committed already. And those are the minimum amounts. So I think it's going to be taken care of, quite frankly. And also recognize that as you take care of problems, you don't have a continued accumulation of problems behind them. That's one of the reasons that the number has gotten so big.
That's what we've seen for so many years. Again, a lot of people have said neglect. The people of public housing have felt neglected by both city, state, and federal government.
And they have been neglected to a significant degree, and that's something that this program is set to change. You know, the Bible tells us we have a responsibility to the poor people in our society, and if we recognize that and we put in place mechanisms to give them the opportunity to climb the ladders of opportunity, we're doing ourselves a favor, and it makes all the difference in the world. It's our most valuable resource are our people.
Yeah, and lead. We got to talk about lead. We've been talking to families with sick children, and over 1,100 sick children. According to this new plan, the fixes are going to be 50% over 10 years and 100% of the apartments over 20 years. Is that fast enough? Is that right?
I don't think it's ever fast enough. You know, those are the minimum possibilities. I expect it to actually move along faster than that, and I think people will get more enthusiastic as they see progress being made, and we'll be able to move even faster. But obviously, you know, as a neuroscientist, I can tell you that the things associated with chronic lead exposure in children are devastating, and they impact the entire life cycle of that individual and the people around them.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned you are a doctor, and I'm sure as a professional, as a human being, as a dad, what was your reaction when you heard 1,100 children were poisoned by lead in New York City?
Well, like so many other people, I was outraged to hear something like that. And I think, you know, we were already concerned about it, but I think that increased the level of concern very significantly. And that's one of the reasons that the actions were taken that were taken. We can't allow that to happen to our precious resources.
Okay, and Judge Pauley. Judge Pauley is no longer, I guess the federal judge was cut out of the equation. A lot of the residents trusted Judge Pauley and thought it was good to have that independent watch. What do you say to residents who say they're worried that Judge Pauley is no longer in the picture? I
say the proof will be in the pudding. Keep an eye on things. You know, the Monitor and NYCHA are going to be presenting quarterly reports on the progress. These will be made public. I expect you know, individuals like yourself to keep the spotlight on what's going on.
Oh, I will. Oh, I will.
I think that's one of our best tools to make sure that things are taken care of as promised.
Well, I've asked Mayor Bill de Blasio many times if I could go with him once a week at least into public housing, and he said no. But I'm hoping with your administration you will allow us a regular place, the media that is, seeing what's going on.
I am very happy with transparency. I have nothing to hide. I love for people to see what's going on.
That'd be great. That'd be great. And then endgame. Let's as a wrap up here, how do you envision public housing? How do you envision the 500,000 people that live inside public housing and what their buildings will look like?
Well, what is happening right now, the whole concept of public housing and assistance is changing. It used to be the government would ride in with a bucket of money, build these massive places with no forethought about, you know, education, about food, about jobs, about any of the things that are important to developing people. That's not being done anymore. And we're looking more holistically at things, and we're looking at mixed income, and we're looking at public-private partnerships. We want to create a situation where affordable housing is available everywhere throughout our nation, and people have opportunities, high opportunities, no matter what their economic level is at birth.
No, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Secretary Carson. Is there anything you wanted to add or to tell the families of NYCHA right now?
Yes, I would tell them that, you know, I grew up in poverty, and I grew up knowing what it was like to just want to feel normal, just to feel like people care. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that people have what they need to climb those ladders. And I want people to understand that this is still America, and the American dream is for them. No matter how you're born, you don't have to stay that way. And, you know, it does us all good if we help people to move up that ladder. And that means that when people start climbing that ladder, don't pull the support. This is what's been done for decades. As soon as somebody starts climbing that ladder, we pull their support. And everybody else says, I'm not climbing that ladder. You know, we have to be intelligent in the way that we do things.
It's a mission of Pixel Evans to fight for the families of NYCHA, and I appreciate it. And I hope this is a new beginning for the families. And I hope you keep us along for the ride.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for the first interview, one-on-one here in New York City. And we'd like to also come to Washington and, of course, see some of the other places that you were saying you're going to start launching this as a model, right? We're going to become a model for others.
I and the mayor have talked about that. A model for the rest of the country, and also a model of demonstrating how people can work together. They don't have to be politically aligned. In fact, you know, I like to just take politics and throw it out of the window, quite frankly. It's not doing us any good.
That would be great. That would be great. That would be great. But, you know, people were really shocked to see you and Mayor de Blasio getting along so well. You know, you looked like you were friends.
I think we are fast becoming friends, absolutely.
Oh. All right. Well, thank you, Secretary Carson. I'm being told we should wrap. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it.